All right, guys, so I'm Whitney. I'm the dietitian here. So this will be my last visit with you before surgery. After surgery, I'll see you at your 6-week follow-up and then a few visits after that, but you've got me for 2 years after surgery. So I'm here to help you as much as I can. Today I'm going to go over your pre-op and your post-op diet. The pre-op diet is going to start 2 weeks before your surgery date. It's okay if you don't have a date yet. You should be finding that out pretty soon. This pre-op diet is basically just going to help kind of jumpstart that weight loss, get your body kind of into that ketosis state so we can help shrink the liver if we need to, and just get rid of some of that visceral fat that can make it a little bit more complicated for the surgeons to get in there and do what they need to do. So 2 weeks of your pre-op, it's going to be written like this. The very first week is going to be, we're aiming for high protein, low carbohydrates. So we're replacing 1 meal a day with a protein drink. It can be the Premier drinks, it can be muscle milk, like the pre-made drinks, or you can make your own protein drinks yourself. You just want to be really careful of the ingredients that you're using. So since we are trying to keep the carbohydrates lower on this diet, you're not going to want to add any fruits or anything like that to your protein drinks. So just keep that in mind if you're making them yourself. The guidelines are going to be to the right, so you've got a certain amount of calories, protein, and sugar content that you want to be mindful of if you're using those protein drinks or making them yourself. For lunch and dinner, high protein, low carbohydrate, so you want a good amount of protein, whether it's chicken, beef, fish, turkey, ham, whatever you want, and plenty of vegetables. So load that plate up with a lot of those non-starchy vegetables. You've got a list in the back that gives you a list of those non-starchy vegetables if you need it, and then a good amount of protein. This can look like a big plate with protein and vegetables on it, or it can be a big salad with protein on top, whatever it is you want it to be. We're just really trying to limit any sort of bread, pasta, rice, fruits, any potatoes and things like that. Mostly just going to be protein vegetables for this pre-op diet. You are allowed to have snacks in the middle of those meals or in between those meals if you need to. You can snack on some vegetables like celery and peanut butter or carrots and hummus. You can do some nuts, string cheese, another protein drink if you want. All of those are going to be okay for snacks in between if you need them. And that will be your first week. So 1 meal replacement drink a day and 2 high protein, low carbohydrate meals. Snacks if you need them. For your second week, this will be the week before your surgery. We're transitioning into a little bit more liquid and a little bit less food. So it'll be 2 meal replacement drinks a day and 1 high protein, low carb meal. Same thing, no bread, pasta, rice, desserts, anything with sugar or a lot of carbohydrates. Just really aiming for mostly protein and vegetables when you have those meals or snacks. You do have a menu of 1 day's worth of each week in here, just to give you some ideas of different meals or snack options. And you've also got some protein drink recipes if you want to use or make your own, but you are not required to use what works best for you. Just make sure that you're trying to stick to this as best you can. The surgeons can tell if you don't follow it. So make sure you stick with it and drink plenty of water and try to follow these nutrition goals here at the top. It really helps if you're tracking your intake using an app or writing it down. That way you can make sure you're hitting those goals consistently. Does anyone have questions about the pre-op diet? Okay. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, especially on that second week. When you go more towards the protein drinks and less food, you may have some issues with constipation or dehydration. So at least 64 ounces of hydrating fluids or more if you can. Another thing is if you're still drinking caffeine or a lot of carbonated beverages, really try to use this time to get off of those so you're not going through any caffeine withdrawals or anything like that after the surgery. If you are taking a multivitamin or any sort of herbal supplements, go ahead and stop taking them when you start this pre-op diet, and then you'll resume your vitamins after the surgery, and that's just to prevent any interactions with your anesthesia or post-op medications. Okay. Everyone feel good about the pre-op? Okay. We'll get started on your post-op diet. This is going to last you about 7 to 8 weeks after your surgery. It's going to start with liquids, and you're going to advance to solid foods and just kind of slowly advance your diet as you're tolerating it. For the first 24 hours only, you're going to be on strictly clear liquids. So that's going to be the things listed here and anything that's really thin or clear. So waters, decaf beverages, broths, bouillon, sugar-free Jell-O counts as a clear liquid. You could do Gatorade Zero, Powerade Zero, Pedialyte, any of those drinks as well. We're just really sticking to the clear liquids, and that's only going to be for 24 hours. So I really want you to focus on getting hydrated. You don't have to worry about your protein. If you want to drink those protein waters, you can, but they're not necessarily mandatory. If you like them, great, but just focus on your hydration and really try to get at least 64 ounces in of these hydrating fluids. After this 24-hour period, you're going to advance to this full liquid phase. So this is that 2-week liquid diet we've talked about in the past. Your 2 weeks of liquids is going to be a lot of your protein drinks. It can be soup of any kind. So if you like a broth or a cream soup, you can do either one of those. We just don't want to have any chunks in it. So if you have a chicken noodle soup, you're not going to be able to do any of the chicken or the vegetables or the noodles. It's just going to be the soup part. If you have a cream of mushroom soup, then you just want to eat around the mushrooms or the chunks in there and just have the soup. Yogurt, it doesn't have to be Greek yogurt, but Greek yogurt does typically have more protein in it. So that's a great way to get some extra protein in if you want it to. With yogurt, you just want to be mindful of the sugar content. So make sure you're looking at the label and trying to find the yogurts that don't have a lot of added sugar. Sugar-free fudgesicles, sugar-free puddings, unsweet or sugar-free applesauce, all of those things are going to count as liquids. Along with oatmeal, cream of wheat, grits, you can use those as well. We just want you to try to make them as thin as possible so they're not really thick. With protein drinks, this may be a time where you find out that you've developed more of a lactose intolerance if you're drinking anything with whey protein. So make sure that you're being mindful of that if you're having a lot of stomach issues or if you're not feeling good after you drink your protein drinks. Check and see what kind of protein it's made with. If it's made with fat milk protein, the whey protein, then you may want to try to find an alternative protein. If you need help looking for anything or you need some suggestions, then just let me know. So this is going to be for that 14-day period after your surgery. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. This is when we tend to have issues with dehydration because everyone thinks you're on a liquid diet that you're going to be hydrated as well. But a lot of this stuff isn't going to hydrate you. So make sure in between your protein drinks or anytime you have anything like this, you're drinking some plain water or at least some hydrating fluids to get that hydration in. Your protein goals are up at the top. So if you are trying to work your way up to that protein goal, that's great. But if you're struggling on getting both your protein and your fluids in, then I'd rather you focus more on your hydration. So if you need to back off the protein for a while so you can get that water in, that's perfectly fine. No caffeine for 30 days, remember that. No carbonation at all. And try not to sip out of a straw for these first 2 weeks so we can prevent any extra air getting in that stomach pouch. Okay. This liquid diet is a great time to add that unflavored protein powder into it, whichever one you found that you like. A lot of these liquids aren't going to have a lot of protein in them, except for maybe your yogurt and then obviously your protein drinks. So if you want more variety with this, you can add that unflavored protein powder to your soups or your oatmeal or anything like that to get more savory things in there instead of just doing those sweet protein drinks the whole time. All right, so that's going to be the first 14 days of your liquid diet. Does anyone have questions on the liquid part? Okay. You've got a sample menu on the back of that page. It's going to give you just some ideas of meals and snacks if you want to use it. And then you've also got a schedule on the back of that page. So if you can really sit down and figure out what times are going to work best for you to have your meals and maybe some snacks in between and try to stick to those times consistently, it's really going to help you stay on track with getting that protein and those fluids in. So if you want to use this, you can. We have times already set in there for you, or you can fill in your own times, whatever works best with your schedule. But try to find those times that work best with your schedule and be as consistent as you can with that to help get those protein and those fluids in. All right, on to the next phase. So when you get to weeks 3 and 4, you're past that first 14 days and you're able to start having some more solid foods at this point. So you're on liquids and you're able to do things like chicken, turkey, pork, maybe some fish or some ground beef. It says limit by ground beef just because some people have a harder time with red meat after the surgery. So if you do struggle or if you don't feel good after eating any sort of the red meat like ground beef, then just avoid it for a little bit longer if you need to. If it doesn't bother you, then you can have it as much as you want. No steak or fajita beef out of the meats just because that's going to be a little bit too tough at this point. So really focus on your soft and tender meats and staying away from those tougher meats. Eggs of any kind. So if you want the whole egg or if you just want the egg whites, whatever you prefer, you can have them any way you like. So if you want scrambled or hard-boiled or a fried egg in olive oil, whatever you want, you can do there. Cheese of any kind, and then plant-based proteins, so beans or peas, things like that. Keep in mind beans do tend to have a higher fiber content, so it can get things moving a little bit inside of your intestines, and if you're still healing, we want to keep that movement as small as possible. So keep your portions smaller with the beans and just see how you do with it first. Introduce it slowly and assess your tolerance there. Your restrictions are there at the bottom, so no potatoes, bread, pasta, rice, desserts, fruits, vegetables of any kind. So you're only doing protein foods and using those protein drinks if you still need help getting that protein in. But at this point, now that you're able to start eating real food, I want you to really focus on getting most of your protein from your food, and then only using those protein drinks if you need to. Just some behavior modification reminders, that 30-30 rule, now that you're able to start eating solid foods again, or at least more solid. Remember not to eat and drink at the same time, and try to give yourself a little bit of time before and after your meals to drink a lot of fluids. That way you can get that nutrition in, and you're not filling up on those fluids as well. Okay, any questions about this phase? This is going to be the next 2 weeks after the first 2 weeks of your diet. You've got another sample menu on the back of that page, and then another schedule. All right. Once you get to weeks 5 through 7, this is going to be where you can start adding in some fruits and vegetables again. We still are on a lower fiber phase, so just make sure that you're cooking your vegetables and keeping those fruits and vegetables really soft. This phase is set for 3 weeks, but you can advance after 2 weeks if you feel like you've tolerated everything so far. So from this list, you've got a small list of your fruits and vegetables. Not everything can fit on this page. So if you don't see any fruits or vegetables that you like, you can probably have them. Just introduce things one at a time and see how you do with them first. You want to be careful of skins. So apples, if you want to go ahead and peel the apple, that'll help remove some of that fiber and help you tolerate it a little bit better, hopefully. You don't have to peel grapes. That's not necessary. It says be careful of seeds and skins. Like strawberries have some seeds in them, but it's okay if you want to start trying those at this time to see how you do with them. There's a list that says be mindful of, so asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower, etc. Those vegetables can sometimes cause some intolerance in patients, just more gas, bloating, abdominal cramping, things like that. If you know any of those vegetables do that to you, then just be mindful of that and introduce them slowly and one at a time and see how you do with those. Starch your vegetables, so potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn. These vegetables are perfectly fine to start introducing at this time, but I just want you to be mindful about them and eat them in moderation. So instead of meat and potatoes every time, try to have a rotating list of vegetables in there and do more of those non-starchy vegetables instead. Restrictions are at the bottom, so no bread, pasta, rice, or desserts still. You're doing mostly protein and getting a little bit of those fruits and vegetables in if you can. All right, so again, it's set for 3 weeks, but if you feel good after that second week, you can go ahead and advance to this next and last phase. So either once you get to week 7 or 8, you can start on this solid food phase, and this will be your last phase of the post-op diet. You've got your nutrition goals up at the top, still trying to get at least 64 ounces of water a day. You can see your protein goals and kind of where your calories need to be on average. At this point, you should be able to tolerate those tougher meats, so beef fajita meat, steak, brisket, beef jerky, anything there. These meats do tend to take a little bit longer to digest, so they can sometimes feel a little heavy in your stomach. So start smaller with these portion sizes and see how you do with it first before doing a whole lot of it at one time. Fruits and vegetables can be raw at this point, so if you feel like you're ready to start trying salads again, feel free to do that. With the lettuce that you choose, be mindful of the type of lettuce. So go more for the green leafy vegetables or leafy lettuce versus the iceberg lettuce. Your diet has been very low in fiber for a while up until this point, and so if you start off with that iceberg lettuce, it's basically just fiber and water. It can be really hard on your digestive tract. So really just try to get the green leafy lettuce in and stay away from that iceberg lettuce as much as possible if you want to start doing salads again. And then continued on the back of that page, citrus fruits, so oranges, limes, pineapples, lemons, anything in that list. If it's in the citrus family, it's going to be more acidic, and definitely want to make sure that we're not introducing a whole lot of acidity into that stomach while you're still healing. So hold off on these fruits until you get to this point to make sure we're not having any of those issues. Grains, so bread, pasta, rice, cereal, any sort of grain like that is going to be something you can start trying at this point, but we really want to keep that to a minimum after surgery. So the reason for that is because grains expand in water. It's going to do the same thing in your stomach and just take up a bunch of extra room. It's going to prevent you from getting your other nutrition in from protein and things like that. So if you want to eat these foods, maybe keep it to once or twice a week, and make sure you're being mindful of your portion sizes, because it is going to swell and it's going to take up extra room, and it can make you feel really uncomfortable if you eat too much of these foods. So you can see there, rice, only 3 tablespoons once it's cooked. So not very much, but we still want you getting more of that protein and vegetables in anyways. Nuts and seeds, nut butters, protein bars, those are also going to be acceptable at this point too. So that's going to be the end of your post-op diet. Does anyone have questions on the post-op? Okay. Well, like I said, I'll be seeing you when you're on this about 6 weeks after your surgery. So if you have questions before then, you're welcome to call me or email me and let me know if I can help in any way, okay?